Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Being Conscious. If you are tuning into my channel for the very first time, in this channel, we talk about all topics hovering around raising your consciousness. Consciousness is probably the highest term you and me can ever utter. So, the whole focus of this channel is going to be talking about this singular yet more powerful topic on consciousness. If you think about it, what differentiates between us and any other entity in this planet is the word consciousness. What makes a human human is this phenomenal word called consciousness. So, this channel is all about this concept. And today, we are going to continue over the phenomenal series which we started a few months back. It is on this book called The Untethered Soul. So, I've already made 5 videos on this particular book, wherein we are deconstructing every chapter of this book, because this is a book which needs to be dwelled repeatedly over a lifetime to fully grasp the contents of this spiritual literature, of the spiritual treasure house which is housed in this book by the legendary writer Michael A. Singer. So if you haven't watched those videos, I will highly recommend you to go and check them out. So coming to the focus of this particular video, the title of the 6th chapter is called The Secrets of the Spiritual Heart. For anyone who has remotely ever read spiritual literature would know that our human body has 7 portals of consciousness, right, which is also known as chakras in our Hindu philosophy or in our traditional dialect. Now these 7 centers or 7 portals of consciousness, which is also known as chakras, have a way of interacting with the cosmos. Now these 7 portals are not physical portals, but they are metaphysical. Today we are going to talk about one such portal in the context of this book, The Untethered Soul. So the Michael calls the chapter, the 6th chapter of this book, Secrets of the Spiritual Heart. And Secrets of the Spiritual Heart is something which is a very deep chapter, and I would like to have your undivided attention as I talk about this particular chapter. And we go together, we try to understand what Michael is trying to say. And what I really loved about Michael's way of writing is his way of explaining things through giving examples. Because when you give examples, when you give analogies to explain your point, the person receiving those explanation is able to better comprehend, is able to make better sense of it. Now coming to the focus. Now if you talk about the heart, it's always said that all feelings rest within the realms of the spiritual heart, the realms of the heart. Now whether it's spiritual or not, we'll come to that. Now to give a very layman example, whenever we are engrossed in something we truly love, something which excites our passion, be it reading a book or playing a piece of music, or probably just engaging in your favorite leisure activity, time just flows. You don't get a sense of time. There is something within you which expands. That something within, that feeling of expansion, that feeling of, in a way, liberation, is because that portal of consciousness, which is also known as the heart center, is expanding. Whenever you are in close proximity with someone special, it could be anyone, a close friend or a close relative or someone who you truly trust, that person's close proximity makes you alive from within. It almost feels like something is expanded within you. What has essentially happened is the portal of consciousness through the heart center is expanded. Now the problem is that when everything is happening as per our needs and as per the script of our mind, if this close person is talking as per you, then the heart is expanding. But the moment later, if he says something which is not to your liking, suddenly you feel a sense of discomfort. Suddenly there's a sense of closure. Now you might feel that this is common sense, what is new about this? Here comes the crux. Essentially what's happening is most of us, 99% of us, are living in this state wherein our heart center is constantly opening and constantly closing. Now, to understand this, let's talk about two extremities, because we can better comprehend the weight of a topic when we talk in extremities. Now, at one end of the spectrum, there is a person with a completely open heart. Now, when I say completely open heart, this person is a true saint. Now, when we talk about saint, normally the thought process, normally the images come which flash in our minds are those of people who live a life of ascetic or who perceive themselves or show themselves as saints. I'm not talking about that category. The category I'm referring to here is one when someone is completely open to the possibility of life. Someone who is so open that he just lives in the moment. He is completely anchored in the present moment. And the other side of the spectrum, you have a person who is sulking in melancholy, who is sulking in depressive tendencies. Now, these are two polar extremes, and majority of us, you and me, lie somewhere in between, because majority of the population lies somewhere in between. Michael gives a phenomenal example to illustrate this. It might sound hilarious to most of you, but the example will clear the concept of this entire opening and closing of the heart. The ideal situation would be to always have the heart open. Who doesn't want to feel joy, enthusiasm, and a love for life? But the question is, if it was that easy, why do we even close it? Now, let's go through the example which Michael talks about in this book. Now, let's say that you are a guy and you are probably having a great relationship and you have a girlfriend. And you are in relationship, and one fine day you are just strolling in solitude. You are going to your own work commitment to a certain place, and while you are driving, you're just driving and you see all the trees around you. Everything is fine. You're just experiencing the trees, you're experiencing the roads in the proximity. You're just taking in the essence of nature and you're enjoying it. And that's how most of us need to be. Our senses were designed not to analyze or make sense of everything which is happening in the world, but to just live in the moment. And that's what happens with most of us when we are on a long drive or when we are taking the path less traveled, wherein we have less of conditioning. When we go to a new place, suddenly what happens is we almost feel alive. The reason we feel almost alive is because that new place gives us that opportunity to stay in the present moment, because that new place is completely free of conditioning. And because there is no past in that new place, you suddenly feel fresh. Now, that is a different story that after some time, the same new place turns into old and we are back to square one. The point I'm really trying to drive is that when we are on a street and when we are just looking at the trees, which have nothing to do with us, we are all okay. We are absolutely normal and open. Our heart center is naturally open. We don't have to make an effort to keep the heart open. Now, here comes the twist. This person is driving on the road, enjoying the view. As he moves through the road, he suddenly notices a blue Ford Mustang. And it happens to be the person he was dating also owns a blue color Ford Mustang, same car. And he notices that a couple is hugging each other. Now, when he notices this, suddenly he crosses that particular moment, so the two cars just go by each other, and after this person goes on in his journey, suddenly he's lost in the chaos of thoughts. Suddenly he's thinking so many things. Now, what really happened was the experience didn't actually pass through his heart. He resisted it because it was uncomfortable for him, because it was not something he could digest. Now, because of that resistance, my heart didn't actually process that, and it was stuck in the mind, and the mind created a turbulent flow of thoughts, thought by thought. And after some time, he distracted himself into some other things, so he thought he forgot about it. But guess what? Here Michael talks about this very interesting and intricate concept that we think that we have let go of certain things. But what we fail to acknowledge and understand is that we actually have not let go of that thing, because that thing was not processed, so it was actually suppressed deep in the subconscious, and this is what our scriptures call samskara. Call a deep subconscious impression is what is called a samskara. Because it was not experienced, it was not lived through, it was resisted. And as a result of resistance, it was not even expressed. So when you don't express it, you suppress it. Now, doesn't mean that emotion or that energy is no more. It only means that that energy was suppressed and it is stored somewhere deep in the subconscious. Now, this is a very, very deep concept. And if you are able to understand this, probably the greatest secret of the spiritual heart is revealed in front of you. Now, when Michael talks about this aspect, now let's say the same gentleman 5 years down the line is no longer with that old girlfriend and he has married someone else. Now, what happens now is more interesting. Now, he has his own family, his own kids, and he is also driving on some other street 5 years down the line, and he sees the same Ford Mustang. Now, suddenly, the great normal day suddenly turns into the same kind of experience 5 years back. So, what exactly is happening? If he had truly resolved that emotions, if he had truly processed that energy, because Michael terms this entire phenomena of flow in terms of energy. And he says something very interesting which really hooked my attention. He says this, that whatever information we are taking in from our senses are just processing them, and then it is going through the portals of our heart, and from the heart it moves to the consciousness. We are not our heart, we are using the heart as an instrument, and before even moving to the heart, our senses process it. But what defines our experience of life largely depends on what is stored in our heart. Now, for the saint, the whole world is a temple. For the saint, the whole world is his family. That's how open his heart is. And for someone like you and me, we have our close group of circle with whom our heart opens. And for the people who are not in that close group, our heart closes because we feel unsafe. And for the person who is drenched in an ocean of depression and melancholy, for him the whole world is after him. I hope you are understanding what I mean by this entire context. The heart is basically like a glass through which we perceive reality. Through which, suppose if I am wearing black glasses, I might see the whole world is black. Suppose I wear red glass, I might see the whole world is red. But a saint doesn't wear any glasses, because essentially at the core, reality is neutral. What sense you make out of it is your own perception. Whether it's good or bad, it's all you decide what is good or bad, because reality is neutral. Reality is this matter of subjective. Now, this whole concept of sanskara and how the energy flows basically talks about two primary functions of the heart. One is of opening and another is of closing. So, Michael gives a very amazing and a very intuitive way to always keep the heart open. The simple solution to this is stop resisting. Stop labeling the situations in your life as good or bad. Just allow the experience to happen through you and create this witness consciousness where you are just witnessing the event without any kind of manipulation, without any kind of resistance. And once you do that, that particular event flows through you, and that doesn't get stored in you. Because if it gets stored in you, that becomes a sense of blocked energy, and that blocked energy is going to come up sometime later. So the choice is whether you want to live with blocked energy, because if you live with blocked energy, you're going to be more closed. And the more closed a person is, the more limited he becomes. Because the more open your heart is, the more vigor and more enthusiasm through which you can operate in life. The more enthusiasm you will have for every small aspect of life. And the more close your heart is, the more limited your thought process, your risk-taking capabilities are. So the simple solution, the crux of this entire video is to stop resisting and to live through life as if you are driving on a highway. As if you're driving on a highway and you're seeing people who have nothing to do with you. You observe the trees, you observe the ambience, and just live through the experience. Thank you so much for your time on my video. If you really enjoyed the video, share it with a couple of your own well-wishers. Also do subscribe my video. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you in the next video. Bye.